Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Cropper here. I was just wading through the Stupidity of Ayn Rand article on allocation by some moron who's so ashamed of his work he won't even put his name on it. And so I was a little bit like that, going like that. And then I went to this other link that's been waiting in the wings. Orthodox Objectivism and Autopsy. A screed full of wishful thinking by Greg Nyquist. Archon? A-R-C-H-N? I don't know what that is. Oh, Ayn Rand Contra Human Nature? Okay. Alright, so this is written in March 2017. It's not brand new, but it's also not like 10 years old or something, or 20. Quote, while it may be an exaggeration to say that Orthodox Objectivism is dead, and I insert the word is dead because it wasn't there, since ARI continues to exist and apologists for that organization still exist. Okay. Period. Alright, now I'll do it without it. Alright, here's the sentence. Ready? While it may be an exaggeration to say that Orthodox Objectivism, comma, since Ayn Rand Institute continues to exist and apologists for that organization still exist. Full stop. There, rewind it and listen to it a few times. Now, I inserted the word dead after objectivism, or is dead after objectivism. Because of his next sentence, I thought that might clear it up, but it didn't help a lot. Does he not proofread his sentences? Alright, the next sentence. Second sentence. Better get better. I've read the first paragraph, so I know it's okay to there. As an intellectual force, it is dead. Why does everybody have to pay lip service to Ayn Rand? And why do people who attack Ayn Rand or any follower of Ayn Rand get attacked so vociferously if it's so dead? That's ridiculous. It is dead. Okay, make your case. It is dead and probably not revivable. He's just, is this wishful thinking or something? Some might argue it's been dead, or close to death, for several decades. But there was always a hope, however dim and unlikely, that the corpse might be resuscitated. Indeed, in 2008, Orthodox Objectivism showed a brief flicker of life. Sales of Atlas Shrugged surged. Oh, is that how you measure what's going on with Objectivism? Well, another way to measure it is the fact that presidential candidates are asked, for one, what they think of Atlas Shrugged, and for two, they have an opinion on Atlas Shrugged. That should give you some idea that it's important and growing. It's not anathema and you can't mention it, right? It's important and you have to be part of it. Now that, whatever you want to say about it, he thinks that book sales went up a bit and that's Orthodox Objectivism was coming back to life because some books were sold for a little while, because it happened to get in the news a little bit more. I mean, why did it happen to get in the news at that time? If it was dead, then why did it happen to get in the news at that time? No. It's been growing, steadily doing its thing, and then it gets in the news and goes whoop, like that for a bit. But why? Only because it was already growing and doing its thing. It got into the news, and Yaron Brook got all over the place on the news, and he was doing this interview and that interview and the other interview, and we were all like, what? This is amazing. An objectivist is regularly on TV? I mean, nowadays, Yaron Brook all over the TV. Forget about it. He's everywhere. Right? He's done everything. Nowadays, the people are coming to the objectivists, right? It's everywhere. That wasn't what it was 2006. That wasn't what it was at all. So, it's going up like that. It's great. Everything's great. This guy says things were dead and then some books sold and that looked good for a while, but now, back to death. That's his only measure, is the sales of Atlas Shrugged bumped up a while, and that's it. Other than that, there's nothing going on in the movement. Weird. Alright. Alright, so it showed a brief flicker of life. Sales of Atlas Shrugged surged, and Rand once again become favorable target of the left. But in the end, nothing came of it. In 2010, Leonard Peikoff conspired with ARI Executive Director Yaron Brook to force John McCasey, a lucrative donor, to resign from the ARI board of directors for the sin of challenging Peikoff protege David Harriman. Now, didn't Harriman later leave, I think? In retrospect, that unsavory episode appears to have been Orthodox Objectivism's last gasp. Some stupid little agreement between the people, stupid or not, but I mean stupid in the larger question of objectivism. Like, really, objectivism is a philosophy that's going to go on for centuries. And to say that two people in an office had an agreement one time is the death throw of the philosophy? What the hell? Oh, God. While Ayn Rand Institute will undoubtedly persist for many decades to come, perhaps even longer, in terms of intellectual significance, its impact on the culture will be so close to zero it might as well be zero. So no influence on the culture, and we can tell this because Leonard Peikoff, Yaron Brook, John McCasey, David Harriman scandal. This guy's really analyzing the ideas here on a very deep level. This is very deep analysis. Good job, Greg. Greg Knucklehead. Continuing, to get an idea of what the future holds in store for the objectivists, consider the Henry George Institute. How many people know that such an institute exists? I have never heard of it. For that matter, how many people know who Henry George is? Vaguely. Late in the 19th century, George may have been the third most famous person in America behind Mark Twain and Thomas Edison. Now he's largely forgotten and his influence is virtually nil. If someone were to declare themselves a single taxer, what's single taxer? One tax? Hardly anyone would know what he's talking about. I have no idea. 100 years from now, will anyone know what it means to be an objectivist in the Randian sense of the term? Not only that, but 500 years from now, people will go to college courses and they'll study Immanuel Kant, and they'll say, this stuff is transparent baloney. How can anyone believe it? And the professor will say, oh, whole societies believed it. The whole societies believed it for centuries. So, yeah, that's how the future will look, sir. Alright, let's see. Mark Twain, Thomas says, single taxer. Will anyone know what an objectivist is? Yes, they will. This is not to suggest that Rand herself will be forgotten. The Fountainhead and maybe Atlas and We the Living could persist for many years to come. The point is that while Rand may continue to influence a certain number of high school and college-age youths for decades, even centuries in the future, he's just given more and more ground. Very, very few of these youths will ever become Orthodox objectivists, and those that do will exercise no real influence on society as a whole. Really, well, the guy that runs BB&T Capital, which is one of the hugest banks, right? It's not the biggest bank in America or anything. It's just a big bank, billions of dollars, right? He's an objectivist. Now, there's, sadly, what he says there, well, happily, gladly, what he says there is completely true, is sadly wide of the mark, is completely untrue. But the fact is that objectivists are influential, objectivists are educated, objectivists are out there in society making good money, doing good work and important, brilliant things, and we have more power and more wealth and more influence than he even thinks and realizes. So, perhaps the most significant reason for the demise of Orthodox objectivism is the shortcomings of the philosophy itself. Oh, are you saying that so you could have a philosophy with severe shortcomings and it would not meet a demise as long as some other things were to obtain? What a strange sentence. What things would obtain to keep a different type of philosophy alive? What a strange sentence. I'm not merely referring to the intellectual or technical shortcomings of Rand's ideas. While those shortcomings are very real and very troublesome, few people care about them. So let's just not worry about him. I won't even mention all that garbage in her stuff. Garbage, garbage, Rand. Rand is garbage. Not going to mention it because... Why is he not going to mention it? Oh, few people care about it. Yeah, don't worry about that stuff. Move along. Nothing to see with Rand's philosophy. Don't worry about that. What people want in an ideology is a narrative that can give their hopes and aspirations meaning and scope. So it's just a narrative. Objectivism is not a philosophy. It's just a narrative to give you hope. That's all it is. Rand provides a narrative of sorts in her novels, especially The Fountainhead and Atlas. But what is distinctive to Orthodox Objectivism arises not merely from the stories in Rand's novel, but also from her non-fiction works. The novels give the reader a sense of Rand's moral ideals. There are serious problems, to be sure, with these moral ideals, and not just with the ideals themselves, which is not all that important, but with the appeal of those ideals, which is far more significant. The novels give the reader a sense of Rand's moral ideals. Okay. Her ideals are in the novels, fine. There are serious problems with these ideals, not just with the ideals with themselves, which is not all that important, but with the appeal of those ideals, which is far more significant. Okay, so this is the central claim there. There are serious problems with these moral ideals. And then I thought he was going to strengthen that claim, but didn't. So that's it. It's just an assertion. There are serious problems with these moral ideals. And there's also a serious problem with the appeal of the ideals. Okay? So there, let's shorten that sentence up nicely. There are serious problems with the morals and the appeal of these ideals. Kind of a junky thought, but he's the one that wrote it. I will discuss this issue in a future post. Yeah, because it's not very clear in your mind, is it? I could tell by that sentence. And so you garbaged that sentence out onto the paper like vomit, and then you said, don't worry about that, I'll clear that up later, guys. Because, I think, don't worry about it, the dog will get to it first. For the nonce, N-O-N-C-E, is that a thing for the nons? I will stick to the non-narrative aspect of Orthodox Objectivism, the technical philosophy. According to Rand, her moral ideals are founded on reason, which in turn is founded on her metaphysics and epistemology. Therefore, to become a genuine Orthodox Objectivist, as opposed to a mere student of Objectivism, requires mastering the arcane details of Rand's metaphysics and epistemology. You exist and you know it. Ooh, that was hard. Details, moreover, which can't really be applied in any meaningful way to real life. The fact you exist and you know it has nothing to do with real life. Brilliant. Brilliant. And which, on technical grounds, don't even make all that much sense. It really doesn't even make sense that you exist and that you know you exist. That's actually nonsense. Brilliant. Brilliant. In short, absorbing and mastering Randian orthodoxy doesn't add anything to a person's life. Well, you wouldn't know anything about that, would you? You wouldn't know the first thing about that, what it adds to a person's life. First of all, it's not Randian orthodoxy, it's objectivism, and you still wouldn't know anything about it, would you, sir? Beyond perhaps a little bit of status among other aspiring Orthodox objectivists. Why anyone would wish for a bit of status among such a small and insignificant group? Like I said, he doesn't realize how big we are or how wealthy and powerful we are. But for some people, being the largest minnow in a muddy puddle may in fact be the very most they can aspire to. I'll tell you what, if the YouTube situation, which has been the same for 12 years now, 13 years, if YouTube is like the world in any way at all, then the world is full of a lot of wishy-washy stupid morons, and the objectivists are just going to plow through it. Okay? And pretty soon, only successful banks in America will be owned by objectivists, 50 years or 100 years from now, or 10 maybe, if things go quickly. And so, no, get ready. The future is objectivism. Get ready. I mean, look at YouTube. YouTube is a place full of pocket philosophers, right? 50 philosophers on YouTube for every philosopher in the academia, you know? 1,000 speeches on YouTube for every class being taught in academia. And an objectivist can run around YouTube destroying and embarrassing and knocking people down and pointing out how stupid all their stuff is. Now, if the wider economy and culture are anything at all like that, which they are, then objectivists are going to have a fine time of it. It's unfortunate we have to put up with such a shitty, rough culture, but, well, maybe I should put it this way. We're going to have an easier time of the future than anybody else. That's for sure. It's going to get rough, maybe, for a lot of people, probably. But the objectivists will have it the easiest of all, because they're able to be honest and face reality. And that's the best thing. All right. Ayn Rand, Contra Human Nature, Orthodox Objectivism, and Autopsy, Part 1. Wrecked, Greg. I wrecked your garbage. Even your sentences that you vomited onto the page, and the ones that you didn't even check for meaning before you went forward. Goodbye, Greg.